going
Wait,
to
wait,
see
wait. Did you just say you didn't want to offend anyone?
certain people.
Okay.
Certain
True,
people.
true. Yes, yes. We don't want to offend the nice people. Yeah.
You can see I'm a very, very old man, but also it wants me to
No,
talk. It wants me to
We're British
move.
10s, remember.
British 10s, of course.
Episode 7, everyone released something this week. We're releasing a brand new game called Unhyped did it first. OpenAI released GPT-5. We'll talk about the major announcements and implications of it, as well as talking about their open source model releases. Shopify dropped AI agents to bring e-commerce to any AI platform or agent. Google releases Opal, Storybook, and Genie 3. Anthropic, not to be outdone, drops Claude Sonnet 4.1, focusing on use cases over hype. Grok acts up so people don't forget it exists, which you probably already have. UK kids are bypassing AI age verification less than a week after it was implemented. Yikes. Recent Menlo report believes we're entering a more mature phase in AI. Have we been right the whole time? Anthropic pulls the plug on OpenAI using Claude code. AT&T CEO pulls a Stankey on employee culture. Is Clanker the first anti-AI slur, and what the growing backlash over AI says for our future? Do Nvidia's chips have a secret backdoor and kill switch? Cloudflare accuses Perplexity of unethical scraping, and Perplexity explains agents and how they work to Cloudflare. And finally, we're wrapping up with a little bit of tea, what I'm hearing from inside of Meta's super intelligence group. It's not good. So maybe that's it. You know, it's this podcast has to hit its stride because you listen to a few of it, then a few of these, and then you start getting the jokes. And as soon as you start getting the jokes, everything gets better. You know, you gotta understand our humor. All right. So this week, welcome to episode 7. This week we've got a new game. We've been noticing something, Stuart and I have been noticing a trend over the last few weeks, which is we do something on the podcast, and then a few days later, there are some people writing about it in very large press publications. You know, I want you, anytime you see an article that is a riff off of something that we've done but doesn't credit the show, tag us and tag it with the line, Unhyped did it first.
Yay.
This should be fun. Look at us. Starting the show choosing violence. You want to get into GPT 5?
We have to.
Episode 5, what is this? The Empire Strikes Back or something? A New Hope? Or
where
are we close? You know, Revenge of somebody?
Death Stars all round, isn't it?
Oh yeah, wasn't that one of his social media posts was the Death Star? I don't want that right before ChatGPT.
No.
You know, drops 5. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the Death Star rising.
No, I don't know about the branding there, but you know, we'll see. But I'll tell you something. I don't know about you, but overall, I was waiting for my feed to be inundated for days and days of the normal boring stuff, but it wasn't. I mean, it is there. And I'll come back to that topic. There's a couple of repeating themes, I think, today. And one of them is something that I spotted. The first one is that perhaps we are moving to a maturer phase, and the second one is to do with augmentation rather than replacement. And it's sort of weaved in a few of the different things. And I spent some time, rather than jumping on during the announcement, which I completely missed, by the way. I decided to actually do the boring thing, and because I mean, obviously we don't know about it unless it comes by post. Here in Europe, by ship.
In the EU, you can't have the model. I'm sorry.
6 weeks transit before we
GPT-5, but not for you.
So I did the boring stuff. I thought, okay, let's read through this documentation. They put it out there. Let's see what.
Wait, you read the docs?
Yeah. Well,
wow.
I thought I'll make the effort. Nobody else is going to. So you can do really novel stuff because nobody else is going to read the documents. Nobody else is going to read the research paper.
Literally, you're right. Yeah.
You are literally unique. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me, and it's understandable that there's a kind of rational fear of, okay, the new GPT is here. Are we talking about more replacement of humans? And this goes back to something that we've said time and time again, or at least I've drilled on about, which is that you know, these models always look magical to the hands of the non-domain expert, but are actually powerful in the hands of the domain expert. And this was an absolute prime example. It looks to me the more powerful the model is getting, and the more mature the market's becoming, the more human is needed.
Yep.
Because what they're effectively doing with GPT-5 is handing over more levers, more dials, more responsibility. It didn't matter what aspects of the documentation I looked at. Minimal reasoning, for example, fine. So you can activate minimal reasoning, but you need human scaffolding to really make it work. Hidden reasoning tokens can be re-fed. And when I say hidden, there's two aspects to the hidden. The first is the reasoning tokens, and the second is the encryption aspect. And you can feed these back into the model, even though you're not necessarily sure what they're actually doing. But again, it's human curation. It's the same as the allowed tools. Again, we define the operational reality per request. You can do constrained outputs. It's powerful but fragile. Again, it's requiring the human design skill. Reasoning summaries. So as it's going through what they call the chain of thought, we've seen that that often that's retrospective and not true anyway. But that aside, it does give some interruption capabilities for us to have a look at what's potentially, or at least it's saying, is going on under the hood, for us to make better judgments. Again, looking at replacement, augmentation rather than replacement. The provocation from this, I would say, is that the more powerful the model, not the more autonomous, actually, the more human dependent is beginning to come. And also, there was a strong note in there that their mini and nano models can outperform the large model, but only if it's framed extremely well by the human. So more and more as I read through it, you kind of get to see, hold on a second, we're in this interesting paradox. It's kind of the larger, more powerful the model, the more the human is needed. Ironically, the more the human comes into it, the less powerful the model you need. So we're in a real, as with this technology cycle, full stop, and we've noted it before, it seems very paradoxical. And just on that sort of small model, something that we've spoken about a lot in terms of like the future being smaller models, there was a great paper put out by Pinterest, who were trying to do something with models to extract information from very quickly changing e-commerce sites, and this is done on a massive scale, as you can imagine. And again, it was the smart model is the smart abstraction, not necessarily the huge model. Again, this is about the sort of the structural and semantic cues fed into XGBoost, and it vastly outperformed GPT 4.0, higher precision, faster, 1,000 times cheaper. Again, this is the human created fit between the task, the data, and the representation mattering more than the model scale or power. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. It's don't scale the model, scale the fit kind of mentality. That's not to denigrate. I think these models will become increasingly powerful. Don't get me wrong, in different ways, but we're starting to see this is about fit and workflow, and human in the loop more and more. So there's a real irony here that I think a lot of people missed.
Yeah, I mean, you've just proven why we should all be reading the docs. That's what was said and what they explained really sounds like they've spent months using their own model. And I think this is the first time that OpenAI has done this, where they delivered something that they've used. They've figured it out. I heard that throughout the presentation. I was watching the demos. What I heard from them over and over again was, we've used it, we've been playing around with it, we used it for something internally, we did this with it internally, and what we found, that's a maturity. You're right. There is maturity coming into the cycle. What we're seeing is more and more of these companies using their platforms first, figuring out what it's good at, figuring out what it's not good at, and everyone comes back to the same thing: human in the loop, human augmentation. This is something we've been banging on for a very long time. Because if you're doing this, if you're building in the field, and this is why I think it's so important for hands-on voices to remain active, because we're combating this hype cycle from people who are obviously, one, not building, two, not using. When you don't build or use, you're missing critical context. And I think that's the big piece behind GPT-5 is you heard them say, we used it, this is what it's good at. We're now into this more pragmatic. Instead of using AI for all of these hypey, frothy types of activities, we're using AI for what it's good at. This is something we have been just absolutely hammering on. Use it for what it's good at, not for what you would like it to, or what you would hype it to be magically good at. With this release, I used it for a whole bunch of front-end coding. They kept saying, oh, it's great for front-end coding. I used it for front-end coding. I finished 7 websites since yesterday. This is one thing I've been writing code for a very long time. I hate front-end. I can't do it. I'm an absolute back-end type developer and engineer. Front-end has always been a struggle for me. I heard them say the same thing during their demos. We hate front-end. They started using it for front-end coding, and that's what their demos were really heavily leaning on. Was here's what it can do for all of this front end. So if you understand the back end, you can code most of that using an AI tooling assistant, but there's still, again, heavy human augmentation. However, when you switch to this front end, you need to be less of an expert in the code and more of an expert in design and the visual aesthetics of it. And I saw that repeatedly coming out when I used it. I don't know what you're feeling this morning if you're a front-end developer or if you focus on web user interface. I mean, if you have heavy design skills and those components of it, you understand the user and the aesthetics, I think you're fine. Everything else, wow, it does it all. It is extremely good at front end. It is still capable, probably more capable than the last version at back-end coding, but the front-end piece of it just blew me away. The other thing that I saw was the self-correction. Really good way. I don't want to say self-improvement yet, but it self-corrects coding. The focus of, and we'll talk about Claude 4.1, the 4.1 Sonnet release, but looking at the core focus, it was really use case centric. And one of the biggest use cases was coding. It's good. It is really good at coding because it does this. It runs the code. It finds bugs. It finds problems. It fixes them. So it goes through multiple cycles of self-improving the code before it delivers you a final version. And that, I think, is a game changer. If it can do defect resolution, where I send it a bug or a bug report, and just like in the demo, it runs it down and just delivers the fix. Here's the recommended fix. We can run that through unit testing and regression and then validate it ourselves. That will save us so much time. All of these small things that AI is really good at, leaning into what AI is really good at, all of these small things, huge time savers. I can't underestimate or understate how big these small sounding things are.
Leaning into what AI is good at. This is your second week of this heresy.
Oh,
Your
I'm
second
sorry.
week.
I'm so
You've obviously
sorry.
not been before the tribunal yet.
I will
But
be hauled before.
exactly. This should never happen again.
I'm
Using
so
AI
sorry.
for what it's good at. Oh my goodness. But you do raise something brilliant there because the first thing is that it has been a classic. In the product world, this concept of dog fooding. This concept of eat your own food, use your own product. I guarantee you two things, and I've seen it over and over, and I've worked, as you know, extensively over the last few years in products on the large language model side. If I see a company that's building a large language model product and I ask them the question honestly, are you using this within your own organization? And the answer is no, is 99% failure straight away. It's
Yep.
been exactly the same conversations that I've been having with
Yep.
consultancies. Consultancies are desperate. It's like an inception of consultancies. Consultancies are desperate. How do we position AI for our customers? So many customers are coming, clients, and asking, we don't know what to do. Okay, are you using AI in your consultancy? No. problem number one.
You're cooked. You're
Problem
cooked.
number one. I don't know where to go from there, because
Yeah.
if you're not using your own product, if you're not using AI, then you are on a sticky wicket. You really are. And if that is true, I didn't, as I say, I didn't actually see the presentation, but if that is true, then that makes a lot
Why
of
bother?
sense. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense if they're, because, like the only way to, you get so intimate with a large language model that you're using extensively, or a product that you're using extensively. Half the time, I'm sure that we know the product better than the organization making the product. That's how it feels, does it? Because
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's the only way.
That
If
used
you're
to be
not,
Google's problem, right?
yep.
Yeah,
So
that used to be Google's problem. They
yeah,
didn't know how to ship a product because they didn't understand their customer. They didn't spend the
yeah,
time using the thing
yeah,
themselves, because everything that was incentivized internally was innovate and then move on to the next innovation.
yeah,
The people who would stick around and turn an innovation into a product weren't incentivized, so they all just left.
yeah,
And we're seeing this in multiple different flavors. So, I mean, you nailed it when you talk about your experience. This is why experience is important. This is why having people who have done this before, that's why these people are getting paid so much. If you've never done this before, you don't understand all of the small things you have to do in order to make one of these AI products successful. So those are all, thank you. Thank you for reading the documents and ignoring the demo. That turned into more insight than you would
ah,
expect.
that's
The
ironic.
most insightful thing you could have done was just,
That's so
demo.
ironic.
I'm not watching the presentation. I'm reading the documentation, which I guarantee you,
The boring
demo
stuff.
probably got several million hits. We're probably having more viewers of this podcast than they had readers of the documentation.
Love it.
Next thing I want to talk about is Shopify's AI agents. I know GPT-5 is going to really drown out a lot, but it's important to look at what else has gone on, because the world is not GPT-5, even though it's probably going to feel like that for the next couple of weeks. Shopify dropped AI agents on their e-commerce platform, and essentially they've positioned these as you can bring e-commerce and AI to any agentic flow, any platform, anything. You can use our AI, our e-commerce information architecture, and all of a sudden e-commerce just works on your platform, or your agents will be able to take advantage of e-commerce capabilities. This is absolutely brilliant because it's built on their depth of understanding of all of these e-commerce workflows. The quantity of data and information that they have about them is massive. And so these models are deeply integrated into workflows that they've been working on for years. These information and knowledge graphs have been curated for years. And this is the first example. Shopify is really the first one to monetize AI for e-commerce. It won't be the last, but this is the first one. And if you look at Amazon, this is why we've been banging on the comparison. Look left, look right. Some companies are successful. Shopify has monetized AI for e-commerce. Amazon feels like they're sitting on the sideline trying to figure it out. And that's not where they should be. They should be leading and innovating, but they're sitting on the sideline. Shopify is innovating. We're going to see this divide where companies leverage their access to data generating sources. They monetize that access using AI and integrating AI into the workflow, and then they make it available to everyone. And so it's not just monetizing directly to customers, it's also monetizing through partnerships. Ecosystem business model, it's really critical for AI agentic success. And Shopify's, and I think they're an early leader in this new e-commerce paradigm, which is AI first instead of the traditional digital or website first e-commerce. But I think you'll see a whole lot of fast followers behind this one.
Yeah, it's weird with Amazon, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I will say, with Shopify, this is a prime example. And again, I'm just going to sound like a product preacher today. I seem to have my product hat on. How many times I can't speak for you, but how many times you speak to a startup that are building an agentic system for the name the industry, legal, medical, whatever it is, and don't have that domain knowledge themselves, don't have that workflow, deep workflow pain experience themselves, don't have the data themselves to understand it. I don't know why they do it. I don't know what the delusion is, but they do. Now,
Never
this is why
works.
Shopify will be so successful at this. And I just wanted to mention something. You mentioned ecosystem. This is something that is
Yes.
very, very ignored with what must happen with the agentic world to come, because it will be an ecosystem ranging from, take for example, my agent is fantastic at gathering a certain amount of data. Now, your agent is great at then formatting that and presenting it inside, etc., etc. Or say we're in an e-commerce flow. We're not Shopify. We just have a very, very small segment of the value chain. We will have to have ecosystems to be able to, each agent to be able to find each other, potentially negotiate as a block for the work, then do micro payments between each other, understand who created the value. These are extremely complex ecosystems that are going to flourish through the protocols that aren't here yet. So this is very far off. Or I say very far off. It could be next week, knowing
Yeah,
everything.
6
You
months.
know what I mean. But yeah, but
6
what I mean,
months is
yeah.
far off these
Yeah,
days, isn't it?
if somebody writes in and says, show me the, I can't, obviously. I mean, I can
Well,
show you the
MCP is beginning to do that. MCP enables what you're talking about. So we're seeing the early protocols for
early
it.
protocol.
Microsoft
I'm really
has,
glad
yeah,
you
yeah.
said that. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. But yeah, just I think you're so right, especially in that, in the agentic space, full stop, to just mention ecosystems, because I
Yep.
think it's something that people have not yet quite twigged, and how different that's going to become. Of course, I could then launch into the web we have is not ready for this, but we'll leave that for another day.
We're laughing, but truly, that I mean, I just moment of pause. This is the end of a lot of companies,
Oh yeah.
and I don't think we're talking about this loudly enough. But
No.
you're right. We've got too much. We'll do this for another day. Sponsoring the podcast couldn't be easier. Reach out, info@v2ds.com, to have your brand, products, and business featured right next to thought leadership like this.
Yeah.
Couple of bigger announcements that came out. Google Opal, it's an agentic app developer, and very early release, very early preview, but I recommend go check out Google Opal. It has a lot of the workflow tools in place, and they're looking for early feedback. So if you're trying to figure out how to low code, no code AI apps and agentic apps, this is a good toy to play around with. It's not fully ready for prime time yet, and what you build, some of it will be ready, some of it won't. But the way that they're structuring it, it has a lot of potential. If nothing else, you'll learn a significant amount by using it to figure out what the future of software engineering, software development, application development looks like, and where no code tools will be pivoting to very soon. Google also released Genie 3. Did you see Genie 3?
No, I'm in Europe. I've no idea what's going on.
Oh, this is horrible. This is the EU. You know, I ask this because, sort of is explaining the divide. Anyone that's living outside of the EU does not understand the firewall that's over really the entire block. But Genie 3 creates world models. It's video essentially creating these world models and simulations on demand. There's extraordinary consistency compared with previous versions. Again, it's an incremental step. It's not the final evolution. But play with Genie 3. You'll be able to create fully interactive environments. It's a good environment for agents to learn in, especially agents that are going to have to interact with the real world or the visual components of reality. Use it, play with it, you'll learn a lot from it. And then, after all of these massive releases, they introduced this Storybook feature where you give it a prompt and it'll write you a 10-page story. I feel like Google is such a contradiction. They do all of these really, massive, we're getting ready for the future of AI. And here's a storybook.
I love that. You have to have a bit of whimsy in this. That's
Yeah,
why I do humor and
yeah,
whimsy. You have to have it, don't you? You know.
yeah.
I
Here you
saw, I
go.
saw, I saw a whole research paper on detecting the trends in rap music over the last 25 years. Oh yeah, the cultural linguistic, and I thought that was fantastic. It was like a really beefy,
Yeah,
serious, like research. I thought, yeah, dead right. That's what
there it
this
is.
technology's for.
Yes. From Biggie Smalls to Kendrick
It
Lamar.
was fabulous. Yeah, use
Yeah,
it. Come
no,
on, it can do it.
actually we got to go back further than that. We got to go to Run DMC. We got to,
Yeah,
that would have been interesting. I got to go find that paper.
it was so cool.
Um, OpenAI didn't just release GPT-5; they also shipped 2 open source models. The press on it says that they're similar. I haven't personally tried these out yet. There's too many releases. I haven't had time. The models are comparable to O3. They are reasoning models. They're mostly open source. There's some argument on whether this is true open source or not, and I think that's just a part of the community at this point. We like to argue over stuff. But they are, for all intents and purposes, open source. You can use them in commercial products. They have crushed the DeepSeek, Kimi, all of these other Chinese labs. They are the answer from US companies to all of these open source models. They are so much more capable and they are free. This is what the bigger challenge for companies like the ones behind DeepSeek and all of the Chinese models is at any time a US company can come through and look 2 versions back and say, okay, we'll just open source this and it'll still be better than what they're producing. So yes, China has a wonderful sort of hype engine behind all of their open source models. But US companies are showing exactly how dominant they are by just sort of, okay, here you go. Here's this token thing that I'm going to open source. It's 2 generations back and it still crushes what you're doing.
Yeah, just a couple of notes on the open source side. Excuse me, a bit. The first is on the DeepSeek. All of the claims that it was trained for $10 million are
Yeah,
absolute
those are
nonsense. This was a lot
no.
of money. Yeah, I just want to make that clear because I still see it like an urban
Yeah,
myth.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, what is it they say? The lie travels further, faster, halfway around the
Yeah.
world before the truth gets the shoes on, and that's
Yep.
unfortunately once it takes hold, it takes
Yeah.
hold. There
I've
was an
seen it on
awful,
major
yeah,
financials channels. So great point
exactly.
to bring up.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that because it's kind of like, yeah, but they found a new way to. No, they didn't. And also, there's the suspicion it was trained on US models anyway. But we won't go
Oh, it's
into
not a
that.
suspicion. That's been proven.
Yeah, I know.
That's not a
Especially,
suspicion. That's
yeah,
real.
I know. Don't want to offend anyone. But I do want to say that But let's just make this clear. We're going to see because a lot more dropping of open models from US players over the
Hmm.
coming months and years. We know this. It's like it's just twigged. When the USA action plan came out, and the first thing I picked up on, and I've spoken about it for 2 weeks solid now, I think, on this podcast, is the geopolitical ramifications of open source. Because if you
Yes.
just leave it to China and say, no, we're going to keep ours closed and proprietary and all the rest of it, then, of course, what happens is the rest of the world says, well, we can't afford those models, so we're going to, it's not as good, but we're going to bring those Chinese models on-prem for security reasons or for economic reasons, whatever. And then what this is about the cultural aspect. It's about the
Yes.
export. We from Europe. I don't know if we used to call it. I did sociology at university. We used to call it the McDonaldization of the world. It was the exporting of the sort of and it's wonderful, really.
Yep.
You can actually
Yeah.
see that happening. But this is the new era of that through large language models. And if you don't open source stuff and don't encourage folk to have your models inside their organizations on-prem, potentially for free, under their own control, then you're going to lose control, especially in closed nations, nations that are further away and perhaps closed to Western nations. You're never going to penetrate them. So I think there's a growing realization, hold on, there's another benefit if we start open sourcing this stuff.
Anthropic drops 4.1. Claude Sonnet 4.1. Again, an improvement in coding. And this has to hurt. They dropped their most advanced model for coding. OpenAI drops GPT-5 and it's like they're forgotten. It's like this never happened. And I want to see, this is what we'll probably see over the next coming months, but I want to see a head-to-head. This is why I think it's important to bring up. I want to see a head-to-head. Developer A using Cursor or whatever with Claude 4.1 Sonnet versus GPT-5. Same developer, doing the same tasks. These are the benchmarks I want to see, and we're not. OpenAI even made jokes about this during their demo and on the presentation. We're less concerned about these contrived benchmarks, but we sort of crushed them anyway. Claude has had the same objective. Anthropic has had the same. We're doing real-world use cases, not benchmarks. You've seen the same thing from every company that's had any success with AI. They go away from benchmarks and they pivot towards here's how it performs on real-world tasks. They use value-centric metrics. I think if you're in this field right now and you don't understand how to monetize, how to connect what your improvement in model quality is to a business or customer impact, there's trouble ahead for you. So this is a growing theme I think all of us need to take into account. Don't just go for the benchmarks anymore. It's all about what you've been talking about forever, which is integration into the workflow, doing real work. Again, what you said earlier, eating your own dog food. It's so critical.
I'm so glad you mentioned benchmarks. They are, your customers couldn't care less about benchmarks. They
Who said
only
that?
care.
Who said that?
You said that.
Who said that?
I have the screenshot. I don't care if you've deleted that post. Can you get the job done for me, for goodness sake? We've seen gaming of benchmarks. Half the benchmarks are nonsense. I did a big one of my first deep dives on benchmarking theatre, as I called it, for the medical world. It was absolutely absurd. It's so easy to take one of these benchmarks and just like this paper did, make the claim. Large language models outperform human medical doctors on 97% of cases. And it's like, brilliant. Look, all the benchmark it, but the benchmarks themselves are flawed. They're completely flawed. In fact, I juxtaposed it against a paper that said, stop testing LLMs against human-derived tests. They're not the same things. We're not LLMs. They're not humans. Let's stop this, rightly so. Can you get the job done? And you rightly pointed out that Anthropic moved away from this quite some time ago. But we're going to see that obsession online. I'm seeing it all day. It crushed the benchmarks. Who cares? Genuinely.
It seems like the only people that care anymore are the people that are doing the hype social media thing.
Totally.
That literally seems to be the only people that care.
I 100% agree.
Speaking of social media, Grok, just so that we don't forget that Grok exists, because at this point it's really easy to forget Grok exists.
You sure?
That's gotta hurt too.
Grok demands to be known it exists. It's like it has a little strop. It sort of stamps its feet, doesn't it, when everything goes quiet?
It's like the I can't remember what the name of the dictator. That's a bad sign. The dictator in North Korea, I can't remember his name, but every time he fades from the headlines, he does something stupid, and it feels like Grok is the North Korean dictator of the AI world, where it just shows up when, oh, you've forgotten about me? Here, pew, and it without prompting just creates inappropriate pictures of celebrities. That's you have to look at Grok and say, anyone who's serious looks at Grok, and if you're adopting it, there's something truly flawed with your AI selection process. I don't know why Elon Musk or XAI thinks that continuing to have Grok out there like this is a good idea. No one trusts that model. No one trusts it.
The enterprises are not having that model. It's as simple as that. It definitely feels that it was 100% sort of trained on Elon Musk, doesn't it? Because he's a bit the same, isn't he? It's like everything's gone quiet, so I'll just do something completely outrageous. He did a post 2 days ago, and I nearly posted on this, right? It was yesterday. It was Grok 4 or 4H, whatever. It was so much better than GPT-5 on all the benchmarks. And right at the end, it said, let that sink in. That is a classic large language model speaking there. And I thought to myself, is he now using Grok to tweet, or has Grok just been trained on him? Or I don't know which way round it is, but I'm sure it's one of them.
If we don't see Elon Musk in public for a while, he might have been replaced by Grok. Who knows?
Who would ever know?
All right, so Anthropic, a little bit of drama on Anthropic that you found this week. You want to talk about you trying to yank the rug out from under OpenAI?
I've only kept this. I've got virtually nothing to say. I've only kept this in because it was just such great fun, and especially I was certainly thinking about it in terms of what you were saying about his coding ability. Because what happened was that Anthropic had detected large and unusual activity on Claude code coming from OpenAI researchers.
I want to know what unusual looks like.
Who knows? If only we could see the logs. I'm desperate. Hey, anyone from Anthropic, if you want to slip me some logs, man, I'd love to have a look at that. So anyway, OpenAI, hey man, we're just benchmarking. We all love a benchmark. Anthropic access revoked. Simple. Something was going. Of course, it dragged up all of this. I mean, I posted about it, and it dragged up all of this. Hoisted by your own petard. No honor amongst thieves. A lot of quite very strong comments about. It's kind of rules for thee, but not for me. This kind of don't steal from me, but will steal. Anyway, I'm not getting into that. Yeah. That's too above my pay grade. But yeah, it really brought up a lot of that sentiment. It was quite fun.
Getting back into serious. UK kids are bypassing AI age verification. Why? Wait, what? No, I was told this is bulletproof. I was assured that since we're using AI, it was impossible to bypass age verification.
This is bad, and it does knock onto OpenAI, which really made me laugh as well. So yeah, this was last weekend. UK's big on this kind of age verification for everything, understandably so. There's some horrible content out there. To discover that all children
most of it by Grok.
Yeah, exactly. So that should have age verification. Anyway, so the idea is that through my camera, an LLM looks at me. It wants me to move about and all the rest of it, and to prove to itself through its algorithm that I am indeed of a certain age. So what the children were doing were getting their mobile phones. That I didn't know anything about this game, but it's the Death Stranding photo mode, and apparently it's this Norman Reedus. I don't know what on earth this game's about, but what it has is this character, this sort of older grisly character, and what they can do is they can move themselves, and it moves the character.
The avatar.
So they were just pointing the avatar, moving it around, smiling, nodding, and all the rest of it, and the AI didn't care. There were thousands and tens of thousands of exactly the same person. Access granted. At exactly the same time. I mean, these are we called ourselves we call certain generations digital natives, don't we? These are hacking natives, aren't they? They really are. I mean, my kids are the same. That honestly, if you want to hack around, if you want to know a way through, you just talk to a teenager. It's simple as that. But at the same time, and we spoke about this I think last week, OpenAI had released their study mode. The idea being this is a Socratic and very decent way for children to learn. They won't just be given the answers. They've got to studiously go along and with the large language model. And I actually had to look again, reading through the documents, to find a toggle off button that you can use in study mode. So you just simply toggle it. In fact, it's so cool. You can actually do it mid your assessment if you want. So you just turn it off, get your answers, turn it back on again. And I mean, let's face it, if children can use bypass age verification, AI age verification using their mobile phones on a game, they're not going to struggle with a setting, are they? So but it's the new world.
This is going to happen. This will happen in the US presidency here one of these days, where a 15-year-old figures out how to, for months on end, convince the world that he's actually of age, can run for U.S. president. He'll get, the appropriate number of signatures to get on the ballot in some states, and then they'll actually roll out for real for the first time off of social media, and we'll see a 14-year-old just exactly. I'm sorry, I can't speak. I can't take your questions for too long. Class starts in 15 minutes. I'm on a free period.
Oh, they just make
Uh,
mincemeat of this AI.
yes.
I don't know how it's all going to pan out, but
Speaking of old and outdated, we've got our first AI slur, Clanker. And this has gotten so popular that now on Fox News, they are Fox News is truly in the U.S. Just for everyone who's not here, it is this is news for old people. So Fox News getting a hold of a technology story means it's jumped the shark. So the term clanker is now part of popular culture, and it is our first AI slur. But it's really indicative of this backlash that we're seeing against everything that is AI. Clanker being a now common nomenclature term. This is a danger for brands. And we're seeing it in gaming. I've seen it in a lot of different types of content creation. There have been backlashes against building movies, shows that integrate AI, games that integrate AI. There's an EU prime minister who's in a little bit of trouble for using a little bit too much AI in their government activities. So there is this growing clanker is sort of the funny term, but there's a growing backlash against using AI. AI is sort of the new cheap copy, the new lowbrow, low end, low market. But at the same time, we're seeing more and more AI used across the board for all sorts of work and all sorts of entertainment. So AI is not going away, but the threat is that you can do significant damage to your brand by using AI in the wrong ways. So one of the clanker terms that I've seen a lot is for the social media algorithms, where clanker is used to refer to how bad some of these algorithms are at recommending anything that you should be consuming. It's essentially the McDonald's version of content where it has, yes, it qualifies as food, but you probably shouldn't put it into your body on a regular basis. That's the challenge with this backlash is you can do a lot of damage to your brand without thinking. Brands need to be aware of this.
100%. And I think it was probably the first episode when we actually spoke very briefly about this, because it was 10,
Yep.
probably 11 months ago now that I saw the first research that, and this was very specific, and obviously that word didn't exist, that if AI was
Yeah.
pushed too hard in marketing alongside applications that were deemed by consumers to be critical, so we're talking medical, finance, things of that nature, it could have a negative ramification. It's a double-edged sword. Then that message started to seep out slowly over the sort of coming 10 months. And now we're seeing a very overt reaction to it. And rightly so, because it's not being used with care. Obviously, there are ethical
No.
and moral considerations that especially those from the artistry sort of industries, understandably so, right? Completely get that. But it's this whole thing of people like like you're getting the two extremes. You're getting the AI police. I get them as well, because I've been
Yep.
quite open that I finesse my posts. I don't let it do my thinking.
Yeah.
I don't let it do
Yeah.
my writing. I do it, but I do. I've had to swallow my pride. I consider myself to be a most excellent and rambunctious writer. Unfortunately, if I do that little bit of polishing with AI, it gets wider distribution. People enjoy it more. What
Yeah.
can I do? Okay, that's just a fact, and I've had to swallow that. But it does draw out the AI police. But then when you look at the posts that are just, and I'm sorry to say this word, but it is true, bot shit. You can understand why. You can understand why people are beginning to have an aversion to it. And if people think that, just what's going to happen, and I'll speak about it in a minute, is the maturity of the market that we're potentially starting to see, and I will speak about that in a minute, is going to push AI down. It's going to make it invisible. So, in
Yes.
accordance with what you've just said, it's actually going to be more AI, but we're going to see less of it in that overt sense. And that's I think that will be part of a maturing cycle.
Yeah, I can't talk about it, but there's a lot of products that are AI but have not advertised how much they are using AI. There are a lot of companies that are switching their operating model to be AI dependent, but they're not talking about it publicly. You'll see this more and more. Like I said, I can't say anything else. So let's get into the Menlo before I get myself in trouble. The Menlo report.
Exactly. So this is where this kind of idea came from, sort of in my mind, and it's the question: is the market maturing? To them, yes, and I would say, looking at the GBT muted response, you're kind of starting to agree, and then you start thinking, were we right, Finn? Were we right?
Could
Um,
it be? Could
could
it
it
be?
be? Could it be? My goodness. The core essence of the Menlo report, this is the mid-year 2025 report, was that the strategic edge of the frontier models is narrowing. Now, we knew that was going to happen. It's the rising capex, sorry, and the fall in differentiation. This is why we're starting to see them go into specific domains. But what it does mean is subscale providers, as the Menlo report called them, are in a strategic cul-de-sac and probably doomed. So it's going to, and again, I liked it because it echoes something we've been saying over and over again. It's a shift from building best models to orchestrating and deploying them best, which we've been saying
Yes.
over and over again. The value, and this was the
Yes.
thing, is that the valuable applications that we're going to see will be layers, not visible products, which ties exactly into what we were just saying. We're going to see that kind of embedded augmentation. That's going to be the biggest impact, not the headline disruption that we've been sort of seeing and fearing. And we're seeing a lot of fear around. It's this kind of, it's going to start sinking underneath. And that is really a sign when the technology is starting to mature. Nobody needs to shout about it anymore. Nobody, oh, hey, look at us. And, and it doesn't become, it doesn't become, there was David Bland, he's big in the product work. He did this fantastic thing. He's got the business model canvas, and he said what he kept seeing was people putting AI in the value proposition. He's like, AI is not your value proposition. AI is one of your tools to get to your value proposition. Your value proposition is, I can schedule more easily and quickly now, not AI. And it's this thinking that's made it all go wrong, and sort of getting this understandable adverse reaction. And so we're going to see that sinking where people go, hold on, it's not the value proposition. It's a bit like saying electricity for my fridge is the value proposition. No, it's the fact it makes my food cold,
Yeah.
So anyway, just to sort of labour on that point. But there's inversions here, because again, it's the same story. The more powerful, the less likely it is to be used raw in terms of the model. The more valuable, the less visible it's going to become. The energy will move underground into systems, integrations, trust, compliance, all the things the enterprise cares about and us as individuals should care about. And that's what we're going to see. And they really feel that we're in the sobering up. And I know what will happen, Vin. I know what will happen. I will be all really chuffed, and then someone will reboot the system tomorrow with a load of nonsense, and we'll be back to square one. It happens every single time, but I'm going to hold on to my hope and my positivity for today.
I think you're right. Maturity is coming into the market because we're seeing winners. We're seeing revenue. We're seeing companies, we talked about this the last couple of weeks with the earnings season. We're seeing money show up. The winners are clearly demonstrating their ability to monetize, to create growth, and to accelerate growth with AI. The losers are just still telling their story. The losers' voices are fading. Why? Because they have no results. So that's one thing pushing the hype down. The winners aren't talking about AI anymore. Why? Because everyone cares about the revenue. So they're switching direction. It's not just, they're saying, yes, AI one time, and then they're saying, and look at all of the cash we're making because of this. Look at how fast we're accelerating growth. Look at all these new users. Look at the increase in margins. Look at the things that you care about. So those are coming forward while all of the hype is just falling back. That, I believe, you've nailed it. We'll see that continue. And it's not so much driven by maturity. I think we are still immature and we want to talk about the cool, shiny objects. But now we have something more interesting to talk about. We have real, tangible results, products, and outcomes. The challenge I see is there's about half of all companies who haven't figured this out. They don't have revenue. They're not seeing growth. They don't understand why. That's my entire business model as a strategist. That's You're not growing with AI. You just started using the words and the money didn't fall from the sky. Call me. But that's our business model as consultants, and you do the same thing at the product strategy level. which is even more valuable at this point because companies need to be further ahead with delivering. The ones that aren't are getting publicly and obviously called out. Their stocks going. It is truly a wow, that went down fast. It's that bad. So there's an existential piece of this. As much as we're all happy about it, I would say half the companies in the world right now are terrified because they can't just say AI anymore.
And they're right to be terrified. Sorry to steal yet another term from you. You're extremely quotable. Sorry about that. Is the zombie companies? I don't
Yeah.
know whether they know they're dead now or if
No,
they're still in
most don't.
existence. Yeah, and that's sad. I
Most
don't say
don't.
that with any sense of pleasure at all. It's bloody sad. Um, but what we are going to see, is this sort of inevitable wake up, probably too late for them. Now,
Yes.
there was something that you said, and this is why I think that both you and I are seeing an uptick now in reach outs from significant companies, and that's because the first out of the gate have already reached that kind of this didn't work out very well. We better do something pretty quick. Who's talking sense?
Yes.
I'm sorry to blow my own trumpet, but there sort of seems to be quite a small group in online at least. But anyway, so it's kind of like who's talking sense, whose stuff is being passed around quietly in the corridors of power and all the rest of it, and who can get us back on track? Because but the trouble is that the ones that have only just come out of the gate are still shouting we're AI power. They're so far behind the curve, and of course they're in a sort of double whammy now, aren't they? Because they're going to be shot down by the sort of the backlash at the same time as being woefully behind before they realise they are woefully behind. It's a double whammy. It's not a good place to be.
No, it's really not. Speaking of zombie companies, AT&T. You ready to talk about AT&T's
100%.
CEO who's decided he doesn't like any of his employees anymore? And who can blame him? You work at AT&T. It's either your fault as the CEO that it's not the greatest company on earth anymore, or it's their fault. And why would you, as a CEO, why would you blame yourself when you can blame employees? Why? Why do that? I mean, AT&T seems like with this, they released this memo. It got leaked. I mean, obviously, if you're a CEO and you don't realize that anything you say negatively to employees will leak planet-wide, you're truly naive. This thing leaks, and after reading parts of it, my first thought was they're trying to drop employees faster than calls drop on their network. This is obviously a leave us. There's one line from it. I think he said 79% of employees felt committed and engaged with their work. He was trying to say, no, most of the company is committed and engaged. I think the reality is 79% of employees had ChatGPT fill out their employee survey for them. That's the only reason he got such a good positive rating, because you're AT&T. He talked about market-based culture. We're going to switch to a market-based culture.
What is that?
You know what? You know what the market uses AT&T stock for? A predictor of downturns. Literally, look at their stock going back to behind the dot-com bubble. The only thing that ever drives it up is hype, and it is one of the best leading indicators of a bubble and bust, because the only time the stock for AT&T has ever gone up is right before a major downturn. And you look at T-Mobile and Verizon, you would think, oh no, they're all like, no, not even close. AT&T, it's literally, you can track recessions with this thing. It's that bad. And I mean, what are your thoughts on this? This was so bad.
I've actually been in one of these return to office things, and I've known others that, and they are always the most broken companies. I don't know what it is. It's just like victim blaming, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I've got to give you I've got to give you this quote because I love
yes,
this. This
yes.
is the juice of it for me. If the requirements dictated, this is return to office, by this dynamic do not align to your personal desires, you have every right to find a career opportunity that is suitable to your aspirations and needs. I
Get out.
absolutely love this. Basically, let me rephrase it. Okay. If our culture of 5-day fluorescent lighting printers and traffic jams, expensive city housing, stuffy commuter journeys, school-style management doesn't align with your personal dreams, you're free to chase those dreams somewhere else. It's like the romantic breakup letter, isn't it? But with more parking and desk allocation. Issues with the occasional fight over the last good office chair. I absolutely love it. It is the typical blaming the victim. It's their fault. Come back to school. It's like, but anyway, that's just my own personal thing. Listen, I just want to, on a serious point, I shouldn't go serious. On a serious point, when there's like massive innovation happening and there's real benefits in being face to face and there's real dynamics but my goodness, 5 days a week, all the time. Yeah.
This is one of the quotes. I love this one. You are one of the small minority that shared comments similar to, I've heard this nonsense before and I'll ignore things until this goes away, or these things are just fine the way they were. There might be a disconnect between you and your current professional choice.
Unbelievable.
Professional choice. I hate to tell you this. Dear AT&T, you're not an employer of choice. You are truly a lack of options. People with choices don't choose to come work for you. And if you had anything important to talk about in terms of growth, in terms of any of these other stories, you wouldn't be sending your employees memos where you have these passive aggressive thoughts that get shared publicly. I mean, how did you not know? If you're in a good place as a business, you don't do this. If you have a story to tell about revenue growth, about customer growth, about new products coming to market, about fresh thinking and innovation, you don't do this. It doesn't make sense. They want their employees to return to office. This is, I'll stop beating up on AT&T here in just a second, but they want people to return to office, but they don't have enough office space for them. Which,
always the same.
Yeah, not enough parking spaces, not enough office space, but I mean, AT&T is used to having bandwidth issues, so I'm assuming that this is sort of not something new. This is sort of indicative. If you look at their product and you look at the way that they're treating their staff, internal problems kind of echo the external problems. It's all this really short-term thinking, blaming, exactly what you said, victim blaming. And if you don't have anything positive about the company to say, you start beating up on your employees. It's just the reality. A couple of small things that I think flew under the radar. China's accused Nvidia of embedding kill switches into their chips, talking about competition amongst the superpowers. Nvidia's denying, no, there's no secret backdoors, no kill switches, but you sort of wonder, can you trust models like this? And we're seeing some countries choose not to buy hardware from the US because they're worried that if you do something we don't like, we're just going to turn off the stuff you've bought. So it's a legitimate concern. I mean, I'm from the US and I will fully admit, yeah, that's on brand for us. If you get too far out of line, well, don't act against our best interests because, well, all of your stuff comes from us and we can turn it on and make it work. We can turn it off. That's a definite threat. Yeah.
This has echoes from years ago.
You're seeing this from China too.
Yeah.
China will turn stuff off and take it back if you sort of talk against the party line. So we're seeing this, the bipolar, or not in the sense of a diagnosis, but you're seeing this two-pole world. If you don't align with a pole completely, you may find yourself having things turned off. And I understand Jensen Huang has denied it, but you have to wonder. It's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, and this has echoes to, I'm sure it's 20 years ago, to similar accusations against Cisco network routing systems, and vice versa, stuff coming from China. These kinds of rumors and embedded switches and embedded malware in the hardware, has been around for a long time. So it kind of, when rumors like that persist for decades, you start to think to yourself, I wonder if there's something here,
Yeah, there might be something. Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Why is this a rerun? Cloudflare, speaking of turning things off, Cloudflare, which is the online everything company, really, everything online is supported and secured by Cloudflare. They accused Perplexity of sort of unethical web scraping practices, and Perplexity took them out to the woodshed with their response. They really just read them and said, "Look, you don't understand how agents work. Agents are representations of people. So if you see them doing something and we're not calling them a bot, it's because they're not a bot. They are representing the activities of a person who asked them to do this work for them. So it's not Perplexity scraping the internet, it is a user." So they had to basically explain how the internet and agents worked to Cloudflare, which is a bad look if you're a company tasked with securing the internet for agents. Cloudflare thought this was, hey, we're going to look really good. We're going to do this positive PR thing, and Perplexity just did the reverse card on them.
That's interesting, and I've experienced this problem myself where I want to a large language model from a popular provider to go out to a very specific web page on my behalf and do a certain action on my behalf, and it's blocked. And you know why it's blocked? Because Cloudflare or that sort of like
Yeah.
now block it because they don't want and understandably everything's great for the training of models. There should be some recompense for the people that are actually hosting and building the websites. That's completely understandable, but at that point it is a representation of me out there doing something I could do manually, but I don't actually want to. It's just one page. I'm not scraping, and it's not proprietary information or anything like that. I'm not doing anything specific with it. I just need a summary for a specific reason or whatever it is, and it's blocked.
Yep. Yeah, this is going to be a bigger and bigger problem. We're going to see a lot of these legacy components of the internet throw up barriers to transforming the internet to a more agentic model. We'll see more and more of this. So I think this is an important story to bring up. We're at the end. We're at the wrap up. Do you want to talk about Meta? I heard a rumor. I've been hearing some rumors. I got a outreach after the last podcast episode with a, hey, I got a story. You want to hear something? After we've been talking about Meta's sort of super intelligence group off and on for several episodes, and I've gotten outreach now from a couple of people within Meta who are saying, you want to hear what's really going on? Should we talk about this, or should I just, sort of
No, I'd love to hear
edit
it.
out? You want
No,
to talk
no,
about
let's have
Okay.
it. Oh no, let's have the
Oh,
juicy stuff.
all right. We're going to end up with some tea. So what I'm hearing from the inside, first thing they said, there's no plan. And this, I mean, yikes. How do you spend that much money? There's no plan. That for me was when those words were said, that for me is just a what? They said everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. There is no plan for it's super intelligence. So now we have these competing agendas inside where some parts are sort of going in one direction and saying this is what superintelligence means. Others are, no, this is what superintelligence means. Others are, oh, well, here's what we're actually building and and all of them claim to have the inside track and we've been empowered. We have the authority to do this. And there are fiefdoms forming within this superintelligence group, all sort of fighting for power. There is no common definition of AGI that's been put forward, or what happens when you get there. So we're building AGI, no one's saying why, no one's saying what it's going to be used for, except for everything and AR glasses and marketing stuff and social media things. And so they're essentially just coming up with their own definitions and they're all competing against each other. So there is a sense of gridlock, sense of frustration growing with some of the people within this group who are not entirely sure what's going on and where they're going next. So all of these people are coming in and this group is being built out and fleshed out with some of this top talent in the world. And from what I heard from a few people inside of Meta, apparently there's no direction. The ship is just going wherever the ship wants to go.
Do you know this doesn't surprise me at all for a number of reasons. The first is like, if you throw 250 million, if it's true, 250 million at
Yeah.
me a year, call me a special boy and fly me over to have lunch with Mark Zuckerberg and all this, I'm probably going to get quite a big ego and not really get
Oh
on with
yeah.
other folk and think
Yeah.
I'm the bee's knees. The second thing is artificial general intelligence is almost impossible to define. We have trouble defining intelligence in any capacity, really. But this is in humans. I'm not going there, but from a philosophical or biological and embodied perspective, I'm not going there. But
Yep.
and then the ultimate question, and you touched on it, and then just went right past it, which is the ultimate question. AGI is the answer. So what's the bloody question? Honestly, what is the question then? I don't know. What are you trying to answer? I don't know. And this is the absurdity of it. I don't care. Just throw money at it. I've got loads of it.
Yeah.
I will chin sums of money and we'll get there. Get where? Where are we going? I don't know.
I mean, this is. Yeah, I want to sprinkle the allegedly dust on this. I mean, obviously, this
Definitely.
is all from
Definitely do it.
people that did not want to be named. So I'm going from unnamed sources, which you have to sprinkle the allegedly
Believe it
dust
or
on
don't
top of
believe
it.
it. One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so believable because I'm looking at who they've hired and I'm just thinking to myself, I haven't heard a single thing about direction. I haven't heard a single thing about what you would expect if there was some plan or strategy in place. You haven't heard a single component of exactly what you're talking about. AGI is the answer to the question. Well, what's the question you're trying to answer? AGI is the solution. What's the problem you're solving? Why do we need AGI in the first place? We're going to be the first ones to AGI. Okay, what is that?
We can't
Just
even define
AGI. I'm thinking to myself, so you haven't done any of the things that would make me confident that you know why you're doing the things you're doing. You're just going to build without a solid definition of what's being built and let it sort itself out. The reason why I believe this, and I get a lot of these that I just sort of ignore, but the reason why this I believe is because it fits with everything I've seen from companies making mistakes with AI investments all the way back to companies making mistakes with big data investments and companies making mistakes with cloud investments. We're going to invent the cloud. Microsoft said that. We're going to invent the cloud. And then Azure showed up and it was just somebody else's computer. And AWS was able to come in and build a cloud around business cases. It wasn't just we're building the cloud for the cloud. It was here's where the cloud has advantages. And they ran away with it. So we've seen this before, not with just AI, but with every other major technology cycle. You see companies that are like, oh, we're hiring the best and the brightest, never at this scale, never with this much money coming into it. So there's obviously a massive opportunity. You don't see this kind of investment unless there is a real opportunity. But you also don't see this kind of investment succeed unless the opportunity is well understood and defined, and there's clear direction for researchers to follow, for innovators to follow. So this is truly allegedly and rumor mill type material, but it fits, it tracks. These are challenges that Meta has. Maybe they turn it around. Maybe they hear enough of these complaints and they say, okay, no, actually we had these in the vault. Hold on, let me open it up and I will share the secrets with you now. Zuck will come out, floating on a surfboard and say, let me show you. I herald AI. Maybe that's happening. I don't know, but it doesn't sound like it is.
It makes the whole metaverse thing feel very solid and grounded all of a sudden, doesn't it? And I mean, like we know the simple truth is this: if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter what speed you go at or how much money you throw at it, you still don't know where you're going, and you're never going to get to a destination because what destination? It's sort of 101 of strategy, isn't it?
It tracks, right? We look at the metaverse, and I didn't want to beat up the metaverse because that's just a little, for me, I feel like that would be me coming off the top rope with the elbow, and I felt bad for a moment, but you're right. You look at it, you look back and you say, this is the metaverse all over again, where Zuckerberg is willing to spend exorbitant sums of money without significant strategic direction, without a significant concrete understanding of where they're going and what the ideas will turn into. How will they be monetized? How will they be productized? It sounds like what they were doing with Llama, where the goal was just get into the enterprise. And guess what? That's not enough. That's not a strategy. Get AI into the enterprise, ship models to do it isn't a strategy for monetization. It just means you're going to end up giving away models and backtracking. So the reason why these sort of rumor mill type of comments make total sense and track with me is because we've seen Meta do this over and over and over and over again. I also see this with so many other companies.
Yeah.
It's not just Meta, and I know you see this too.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Irregularity, yeah.
It's back to what you said earlier with the business model canvas. What's the value prop? AI. No. No. The value prop is not huge model. The value prop is not we're spending trillions. None of that is a value proposition. What will AGI do for me that the current AI models can't? What would AGI do that GPT-5 or Claude 4.1, Sonnet 4.1 will not do? Tell me, explain it to me. What's the value proposition? Because they've already been hugely successful rolling out simple AI for marketers and for marketing tools. They've already been hugely successful there. Why wouldn't you keep going?
Yeah, and just to almost finish the loop on this, AWS was successful because they effectively built a cloud for their own business, and then was like, hold on a second, we can sell this on, and this is, and again, it's right back to dog food in, this kind of like a almost fanciful, we'll throw money at it, but we're not doing anything with it. That's why we don't know where we're going, because we don't know what we're solving, because we're not trying to do anything for our own business. It can only go poorly.
Yeah, I've seen this movie.
Exactly.
It doesn't end well. Yeah, it really doesn't end well. So hopefully they turn it around. Hopefully they watch, because I know Zuck watches the podcast. So hopefully they're watching the podcast. Yeah. He hears this and he goes, those two are speaking to me out of love and affection, and I believe I should listen to them. And at the same time, I should send both of them some glasses and a huge boatload of cash. Hopefully, Zuck, I know you're an avid listener. I've felt your affection from afar. Now's your time. Go ahead. Open up that boatload of cash for us, and we will help you create a direction for AGI. We'll even define it for you, won't we? I mean, for $250 million a year, I'll define AGI.
Goodness me, I'll steep myself in philosophy and everything that's needed, because it's going to take that.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, yeah. As a pair, we would take $250 million. For you get both of us, buy one, get one. I don't know which one of us is going to be the free one. I don't know which one of us is the BOGO.
Who cares?
Yeah. We'll split that check. Yeah, I'm speaking for Stuart, but I'm pretty sure we have confidence. If you want to pay $250 million a year,
I'm not outraged over here.
Yeah, no, both of us are the, and I'll be the get one too. I'm no problem being the free one as long as the check still cashes. Who cares? All right, we've obviously come to the end. When we're starting to beg Mark Zuckerberg for cash, it's time to wrap up.
Hard times.
Thank you so much, Stuart. This is a true joy every week.
And for me.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Our viewership is growing. On Spotify, we have gone from tens to dozens of followers. Yes. On YouTube, we are getting hundreds. We may even creep into the thousands here soon, and we have a sponsor that might be coming on sometime next week. It's all coming together. Our master plan. Snark works. Thank you so much. I will see everyone hopefully next week, unless, Mark Zuckerberg's response isn't affectionate. We'll see you next week.